Hello, and welcome everybody to Exploring with Dev. Now, just give me a few seconds here to share out this link properly to some people, so that way everybody gets it. At the same time, while I'm doing it, I'm going to ask that everybody who does join into chat, those few who I do select to bring up onto the panel, please be respectful of everybody's viewpoints. There's no need to be rude or ignorant in any shape, way, or form. These are just questions that I'm asking, and I'm sure people have asked this question too. And the main topic for tonight with the question is, are vampires real? Now, I did set a reminder up to Premiere, but unfortunately, due to technical issues, I won't be able to go right to that right away. So, I am going to do this because this is something that I haven't done properly on this channel. I've done it for others on other channels. So I'm going to read a few things first before I acknowledge anybody in chat. It is not that I'm ignoring you. So if you were watching this on replay, please just know that I wasn't ignoring anybody. I was just reading a few things to set up everything for this. And going forward, I probably won't speak like this and beforehand, and I'll just kind of get into it because I kind of don't like to delay too much for people, and I want people to get in and get going on this. At the same time, I also want to say that even though there may be some religion revolved around this, please, anybody's beliefs in the religion, let those beliefs be your beliefs. Do not push or say that it's right or wrong because there is no right or wrong. If you are a person who is a vampire or vampiric, um, or whatever word you basically want to say towards that, this is not to stir any problems, stir the pot, not to cause conflict or whatever else. Is not my point. The point is to ask about it based on knowledge that is given to us and knowledge that is not given to us. Um, I may be saying some things that could be right or could be wrong. I'm not an expert in this, but I do want to talk about it and talk about it with people who are interested or just wanted to know some information or want to share information. I'm also going to say some words tonight that are not native to me, to my tongue. So I will try to pronounce them in the best way that I can. If, kind of destroy the word, I'm sorry. It's not that I mean to, is because I do not know the proper pronunciation of some words that I will be saying. Um, Maybe I do, and I just kind of forgot how to pronounce it properly because I've not seen it in text point. But I will do this, to the best of my knowledge and go from there. So, are vampires real? I don't know. But a vampire is a creature from folklore or subsists by feeding on the vital essence, generally in the form of blood, of the living. In European folklore, vampires are undead creatures that often visited loved ones and caused mischief or deaths in the neighborhoods they inhabited while they were alive. They wore shrouds and were often described as bloated and of ruddy or dark consistence, markedly different from today's gaunt, pale vampire, which dates from the early 19th century. Vampiric entities have been recorded in cultures around the world. The term vampire was popularized in Western Europe after reports in the 18th century mass hysteria of a pre existing folk belief in the Balkans and Eastern Europe communities, resulted in corpses being stalked and people being accused of vampirism. Local variants in Eastern Europe were also known by different names, such as, and I'm going to probably pronounce this wrong, uh, Striga in Albanian, Virkolakis in Greece, Shrigori in Romanian. Now, if I pronounce anything of those wrong and you speak those languages, I'm sorry. It's just, I'm pronouncing them as I can. In modern times, the vampire is generally held to be a fictitious entity, although belief in similar vampiric creatures, such as the chupacabra or chupacabra, is still persists in some cultures today. Early folk belief in vampires has sometimes been ascribed as the ignorance of the body's process of decomposition after death, and how people in pre industrial societies tried to rationalize this by creating the figure of the vampire to explain the mysteries or the mysterious effects of death. Porphyria was linked with legends of vampirism in 1985 and received much media exposure, but has since been largely discredited. The charismatic and sophisticated vampire of modern fiction was born in 1819 with the publication of The Vampire by the English writer John Polidori. The story was highly successful and arguably the most influential vampire work of the early 19th century. Now, we also know Bram Stoker's 1897 novel, Dracula, is remembered as the quintessential vampire novel and provided the basis of the modern vampire legend, even though it was published after fellow Irish author Joseph Sheridan Le Fano's 1872 novel, Camilla. The success of this book spawned a distinctive vampire genre still popular in the 21st century. With books, films, TV shows, and video games, the vampire has since become a dominant figure in horror genre. Hmm. So it kind of leaves it as people saying and wanting to know is like, well, okay, are they real? Um, I don't know, but it gives you questions as to different things because we look at it and say, well, anybody who kind of drinks blood from a human or an animal, we consider to be a form of vampire. Yes, we have vampire bats, and we know what they do, which is, you know, they find an animal and they bite it, and then they lick the blood that is dripping from where they bit them. So, you know, we all have our beliefs whether or not we believe in something like this or not. So it's kind of hard to say, but we'll go with it. So, you know, I'll say this, and I'm going to add a little bit more because kind of the question to it is then, who is the first vampire? Well, we'll go like this. The first vampire started out as not a vampire at all, but a human man named Ambrosio. He was an Italian born adventurer who fate brought to Delphi in Greece. You can read the full story if you want, but in a nutshell, a series of blessings and curses transformed this young man into history's first vampire. So, if you want to know the proper name of him, it's Ambrogio. Okay, so you can look that up yourselves as being who is the first vampire, right? So with that, we ask, okay, so where did they come from? How did the legend of vampires originate? Creatures with vampiric characteristics have appeared at least as far back as ancient Greece, where stories were told of creatures that attacked people in their sleep and drained their bodily fluids. Some people will argue with that. Um, I'm fine with that. I have no idea what some of these people think that where they come from. Like we look at some things like for today, and we say like, "Hey, this person likes a raw or rare steak. Is it still kicking?" And just because of that, does that mean that they're vampiric in some way? No, not necessarily. Now, if I say anything, that to some people that have more knowledge than me, whatever, in this subject, and you want to talk about, hey, by all means, speak up, let me know. Sorry, Big Chuck D. I couldn't get into that one. It wouldn't let me for some reason. I wanted to get into that one and be there, so that's why I put the link over there. Hopefully, that people, will know to come here. Um, but we know what we read in books, what we may have seen or heard on TV. So we say, "Oh, Transylvania." It's not necessarily really true of that part of the world. We know of another man that, based on novels and books of Vlad the Impaler, who was, a warrior who lost his wife and then had big bloodshed in the armies that he attacked and the rest of the world around him, and turning the way that he did, that we say that, oh, that was the first vampire as Dracula or Dracul. Now, I may be pronouncing some of these things a little bit off. Not, hey, I can talk. I can go on and on and on. I can entertain people and everything else. But sometimes doing stuff like this, yeah, you get a little nervous. You get a little stage fright because you're trying to do things in a certain way and you want to do it. So, hey, if I get tongue tied, I get tongue tied. Now, there's another question that kind of goes with all this, and that there's others I'm going to say throughout, if it's not brought up by anybody. But who's the most famous real vampire? Well, we can say the most famous vampire is, of course, Bram Stoker's Dracula, though those looking for a historical real Dracula often cite Romanian prince Vlad Tepes or Tipis. Tipis? I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name for Vlad, but he was alive from 1431 till 1476, after whom Stroker is said to have modeled some aspects of his Dracula character from. So, is that Vlad the Impaler? I don't know his real proper last name. I know I've read it, and I've been reading a whole bunch of different things before this to kind of get on and just kind of get things. And I say hello to all those of you who are in chat that are watching, that are listening, those who are in chat actually speaking and such. Um, so I ask the question to everybody that's out there in chat: do you think that vampires are real? And whatever you answer, there's no right or wrong. It's just your general opinion. And people have to accept that. It's the same thing about, religions and a few other things. People have to accept other people's opinions, but not, you know, jump at each other's throats. We can agree to disagree, but it's how we treat that. That makes a real big difference. Okay, because we can all agree that some things about our governments here and there are stupid, and other things, hey, yeah, they're the greatest and this and that, but Eh, okay. Now, I guess the next question and a little bit of talking about it is how do you recognize a vampire? Well, in short form, according to vampire folklore, vampires display some telltale physical signs of their affliction. As an example to some of them, uh, pale skin, an absence of a reflection in mirrors, fangs, and red glowing eyes. I don't know about the reflection, the red glowing eyes part. Yes, but then does that not take it back to fiction to, Bram Stoker and Anne Rice and all the other authors that have said, oh, this is how they looked as they transform. So these attributes are commonly assigned to the blood-sucking undead in popular cultures. I mean, sure, there's others where they say they're deformed, they don't have normal human form, let's say, lack of sunlight. So maybe they're not pale, maybe their skin looks different. Their skin is transformed in a certain way. Disfigurements. I mean, hey, I mean, you go back into centuries and centuries that, hey, maybe that is, you know, part of the reason why they say that maybe these people, are vampires. Um, yes, there are things that cannot be explained that are out there. Part of, a lot of us doing exploring of different places, doesn't matter a reason behind it to begin with, but sometimes, you come across something that's unexplainable and, you try to debunk it. You try a scientific approach towards it to figure some things out, but it is what it is. And sometimes it's just totally unexplained. Now, some people ask also, and I don't know whether there's more than this or not. And there are some, and I'm going to say it this way because I don't know if this is the proper way of actually saying it. It is what we know, what we've been taught, that there are different vampire covens throughout the world, not just in Canada, not in the United States, not in, Transylvania, Romania, but throughout currently. What degree in vampirism that they deal with, I don't know. But they say there's basically three types. I don't know whether I agree with just that. There's a psychic, there's hybrids, and sanguinarium, or sanguinarium, depending on how you want to pronounce it. I could be pronouncing it off, but that's just coming out of a couple of universities. This is what they're saying. I don't know. I could say that there's possibility that there could be more, but then without you know some of these people stepping forward and saying differently, some will, some won't. Some just want to hide. Um, I think one of the biggest and areas to go look for one, especially in the lands of America. And when I say that, I don't mean just US of A, but US of A does have one big, huge spot. I believe is probably the biggest, but then it could be just because of Anne Rice novels, which is in the French Quarter of New Orleans, Louisiana, and on the outside of the French Quarter and a few other places in Louisiana. Because the biggest one, the building itself, is right in the French Quarter. Now, I can't remember which street it's on, but it's not that far from Jackson Square. There is the other part that was put into the movie Interview with a Vampire, and in the book that talks about Oak Alley there in New Orleans. That's, you got to take a tour to go to it, and you see the sugarcane plantation and all that, in the cotton fields around it, and you get to tour the actual house itself, and you get to go into the rooms. Some of them you can't go in that deep because they put up ropes. They want people to touch it, and you can't take pictures because they don't want you to discolor anything because of flash photography. I get it, and they won't let you video record either. So, hey, now I don't know if I have or not. I could. I'd have to take a really good look. I might or might not have maybe a picture or two from Oak Alley from the inside of the plantation house, but um, because I was naughty that day and I did it quick before anything was known, and then our tour guide kind of told us, uh, um, no, I have not seen that on the Travel Channel offhand. It could be something that maybe I'll take a look at later on because, hey, we can always come back and bring this topic back up at another time. It's not to say that we talk about it and we close it down. Um, it's open for more discussion because I'm sure other people, as they get to know this, that they'll want to, get in on it. Um, so another good thing, people kind of ask, and we got it mixed because we're told certain things through film and through literature and through fictional books that are created. But do vampires age? Yeah, we know that they do. Based on some things that have read and watched in books and movies, overall most vampires do age, but it does not have a physical change for them. So if I'm a vampire and I got turned when I was 16, and I would say looking 16 forever, but I could mature more mentally. So, like, they don't basically die of old age, however, or do they? From what all information, what was given to us, and what some of us know, is that they don't age in normal age years in which we do, and they don't actually die of old age. They do decay, they do deteriorate, their bodies change unless they have that substance of an animal or human blood to sustain them. And whatever age they tend to have been turned, most information says they stay that age. They may age a little bit afterwards in their looks, but I don't know. Would that be based on the type of blood that they're using to sustain themselves with, to keep themselves alive? Because if they don't keep doing it, they kind of rot to like a rotten corpse with flesh on it that's not totally decayed, but looks like it's decayed, like a mummification in a way. And then they go to sleep until blood is activated them in some way. And that's going through movies and literature and books that we've been told about here and there, this and that. So if they were real, would that be true? I don't know. So I'll kind of leave it at that for a moment. Now I will do this. And for those that, for what we're talking about, you want to talk, whatever information that you know, anything else, that's the link to come on up. And as I said, we're keeping this on topic. We're not trying to stray from it or anything else. Um, this way, it makes it easier. But by all means, hey, I don't have a problem with it. And we can discuss what we believe individuals, anything else. I guess the other question, to really ask as part of it is, do they sleep? So, ask that. Hey, Simon. Well, I hope you can hear me
Yeah,
okay, Simon.
I can hear you. I was just saying hi, Dave, in the chat as well. So, well, from what I understand, vampires from around the world, but not just America. The Chinese have a version of it, but I can't remember what it was exactly. But I think they suck the life energy out of you, and it's the same with some of the ones in England. In England as well, there's what they call an angry ghost, really, rather than a proper vampire. But
Well, wouldn't that put it to being the other soul sucker known as a succubus?
that's different. The succubus actually lies with you in a demon form, invisible, and tries to make love to you and use your essence that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what I'm talking about. The blood seconding is that also the fact that the energy can be taken by the spirits. It's not doesn't have to be a demon. It can be
True.
just a benevolent human spirit or an elemental spirit.
Hmm.
So
So, as I was asking the question, as I was bringing up, what do you think? Do vampires really need to sleep?
honestly, if they don't have the energy on them, they dissipate. If you're talking about the the energy ones, and I suppose if you're talking about the movie types, I suppose they do need to sleep somehow to get out of the way out of the sun. But
Well, I mean, in general.
however, in real life,
Mhm.
of course, we know that vampires don't exactly exist. They were people who were different, and when they died, people did weird things like put stones in their jaws and so on, so they won't come back.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, with some of
I
the
mean,
beliefs, because I
there
mean,
was
as
one
the
called the Highgate Vampire, which was the London one, which apparently was scary, but I don't think it actually sucked on anybody's blood or anything like that. I think it was
Mhm.
just a ghost that liked to jump out and scare people, in the church, in churchyard itself.
Yeah, because as we look at it, for what information we have, we say that they must sleep during the light hours or during the daylight because it frightens them, startens, and weakens their sensibility and powers. So
I
then they
mean,
need to sleep, but not necessarily in a coffin or in a cemetery, which is what
sometimes they
folklore
might
tells us.
participate into the next world until the time comes they got enough energy to
Hmm.
actually come into this world. So, but most vampires were actually just people who people assumed were vampires, and when dug them up because of normal composition, you
Yeah.
all the it's a bit juicy, if you get what I mean. I'm not sure. I don't know the exact terms of it because I'm not a mortician, but
True. I'm not either. I know some stages of that, but not everything.
I mean,
Because
if you think about it, folklore, even the
mhm.
Batman, as in DC Comics, could almost be called a vampire, but that's not an evil vampire. That's a one
No,
supposed
and
to be good, but
that kind
it's
of also goes with the comics. That's where Morbius kind of comes in as well at the same time.
Morbius was a man that was dying of cancer, and he let a bat bite him, and he
Hmm.
became a vampire.
And that's just, some of the folklore that's in behind that's been written in literature for us
I
to
have to
believe in certain.
admit, right? There
Hmm.
is actually people living who are what they call psychic vampires. The only way they can actually they can use their own gifts, mental gifts, is to actually kind of feed off the energies of other people, so then they can actually pick up on what they're doing and whatever.
Yep. Yep.
But there's
I
also
did.
other vampire people who are vampires who
Well, I've touched on a
probably
few types
users
of
and
vampires.
abusers. I
Mm.
mean, my last boyfriend I had before the one I got, I would have called him a bloody vampire too, something. He would have had everything off you, and then if you didn't give it anything in his own way, he would have beaten the crap out of you. So,
Hmm.
I mean, vampire can be termed in many different ways. It's not just the ha ha ha, I want to drink your blood type of thing. You know,
Well, I mean, there are. I'm going to say
there
it
is
as
one in Greece as well. I used
covens.
to think it's called the Lamia. They were
Yeah.
also vampires, but they were female.
No, what I was going to say, like, I'm going to call them covens because I don't know the proper terminology otherwise to call them. But the different groups that are throughout the world, there are some that they do drink blood, and they have to drink blood because they keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, and they call themselves a form of vampire. I know there's others where they dress kind of that
There's actually been
part, like
people
the books, and they
we were thinking
file their
about.
fangs, right? So, what do you think? You think that if somebody is constantly drinking animal or human blood, are they then
Well,
considered a form of vampire?
they might regard themselves as a vampire, but what the psychologists and the counselors will probably say is that they're actually kind of mentally ill. And I know it sounds a horrible way of saying it about
Well,
people because they
well,
don't
yeah,
like nasty, you
and
know.
they did,
Hello,
n-
Brandy, by the way.
yeah, and now I've forgotten what I had because I've erased it. But there was what did I say there?
So called a
There was a
hemophiliac.
disease. It was a disease back in the 16th century that they were thinking that they
The Romans used to actually burn blood on burning special beans in a small cauldron thing, to see if they could actually find whether they could actually summon up a ghost or not, or an angry
hmm
spirit. The Romans
hmm
used to. Of course, some people drink the blood of others for other reasons.
because it was
Because it's a sexual thrill for some. People who bite each other and nip
part of,
each other's blood is a
yeah,
sexual thrill. And a bit
well,
of
of course.
a fetish.
And some do bite enough to, draw blood to the surface or to have it come right through the skin, right through the surface. Um,
I have to admit, I did have a boyfriend once that did that to me, and
yeah,
I didn't like it. I told him, I told him he had to sleep on the living couch for the night. You only did it once.
I think she did Chuck. I think she did.
Elizabeth Bathory slipped the blood of virgins or
Well, he's talking.
women to keep her skin beautiful because she herself was psychotic. But of course, her family was so inbred, including her
Hmm.
uncle, which was actually Vlad the Impaler,
Vlad.
right?
Yeah,
Or Vlad Tepes.
yeah. I think
Right?
that's how you say it, is
But
Tepesh.
a lot of the royal families and the nobility were so inbred that there was a large amount of insanity going
Hmm.
around. And I mean, Vlad, of course, was made mad by his father, who was abusive. His uncle was abusive, which showed him. He was also sent to uh, Constantinople, which was then under the Turks, you know, which still is actually in Turkey, Istanbul, and there he was abused too,
Yeah, yeah.
and that alone is why he went so bloodthirsty, staking people on stakes, which were normally the Turkish people,
Hmm.
you know, and
Okay, I'm gonna
but then
read this little
again,
bit here. I'm gonna read this little bit here that says part of the Americas. Um, the Lugaro is an example of a vampire belief can result in a combination of beliefs here, a mixture of French and African voodoo. The term Lagaru possibly comes from the French loup garou, meaning werewolf, and is common in
Yeah,
the culture of Mauritius, I believe is how you say it. Now,
Mauritius. Mauritius.
no, Mauritius.
Actually, it is. It's spelled Mauritius, as in Mauritius. Yeah,
Yeah,
Mauritius.
and some of these stories also widespread through Caribbean islands, Louisiana, in the states.
Funny
Similar
thing
female
is, I
monsters
noticed
from
werewolf
Trinidad.
as well.
There's the tundra and the Parasola of Colombia folklore,
Some
Mapuche of the southern
people
Chile.
like me who associate the wolf as their totem, right? As in their spirit
Yeah,
animal. A lot of them were associated with being werewolves. They weren't. There was
no,
also people who were born with hypertrichosis,
yep,
which are people who basically got hair absolutely everywhere, from the top of their head all the way down to their toes.
mm-hmm,
They were thought to be werewolves as well, hunted and killed
yep,
in Transylvania and the Balkans and all the way through to France, even.
mm-hmm.
And I think it was born in England at some point. I can't remember where, but
I'm not sure offhand. I don't know if I have that on here, but I mean, I've got everything
simply
in Rhode
also,
Island, New England, Africa, Asia, uh, all have some type of.
I'm trying to remember now. I think there's something spirit similar to that in Indonesian folklore that waits out in the forest and grabs people in the night.
Mhm. And I mean the other form, which a lot for Puerto Rico and Mexico, the goat sucker known as the chupacabra is
Yeah.
another form that kind of say, uh, I
Could
guess, a
that
cross between a
actually be the
vampire and
opposite kind
another.
of vampire?
Yeah, it's
Some people even think it might be the living descendant of one of those marsupials with the big sharp teeth
um,
that were left behind when Australia left South America during the breakup of the continents.
yeah, 'cause it's kind of hard because you're looking at different things with information and saying that on the 1st of January 1600 that
Hmm.
some of them that they only fed once a month, not as often as what's depicted in films and folklore. And if every victim turned into a vampire, then within 2.5 years, the entire human population of time would have become vampires.
You see, in Romania, to become a Strigoi, you had to have had a violent death.
Yes.
And Strigoi were not just vampires, they were also called werewolves as well, some of them. They're all named Strigoi. Angry, hungry ghosts. So I can't believe really some of the stories, obviously, because it's all folklore, but a lot of them have got basis in myth. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a fact in the myth.
Well, we could look at the myth as like, that light and garlic that
Yeah.
some of them would have hypersensitivity to, but that is also kind of related to what animals and people who have had rabies.
He was allergic to garlic at one point. They assumed was a vampire, but wasn't.
Well, that's why they also say that those symptoms basically also come from any animal or any human who's had rabies, that they, are susceptible to garlic and light because it's a high
Also,
hypersensitivity.
water as well.
Um,
Hydrophobia.
I don't see anything what they're saying here, but maybe. I'm just
You
going by
see,
what
when
I'm
people get bitten by
reading.
rabies and develop it, they get scared of water. It's something to do with the brain. It affects the brain, makes them
Yeah.
angry, mad, violent. And the all they want to do is bite the next person so they can bring forward the infection to someone else.
Well, I
And
know
that's
that
how you got to the vampire and the werewolf thing.
yeah, because I know that with rabies, it affects a portion of the brain that that leads to disturbance of normal sleep patterns, thus becoming nocturnal and hypersexuality at the same time. So
I suppose that's where they probably got the myth of this for the succubus about some women or men being nymphomaniacs, and
mm,
addicted to sex. It's
yeah,
it's
I
not
mean,
unfeasible.
this is just part of some of the things that they're saying. Hang on a sec here. I got. Oh, okay.
Mind you, if I felt hungry, I always said I would like a bit of a nibble.
Hey, Randy.
Hey
And
guys, what's up? How you doing, Deb? How you doing, Simon?
I was having a really great, thoughtful discussion with initially of all this thing with the folklore and the about werewolves and demons and vampires.
Well, it's more on the vampire side than anything, but I mean, what's your take on it, Randy? What do you think? Are they real? And
Honestly,
well, you know,
don't know.
I would probably hang on, Simon. Honestly, I think some can be folklore, yeah. Now vampires, I'm not quite too sure about. Haven't ran into any of those, but or caught of any of those type of things on camera I've seen. But now the chupacabra, yes, I've seen pictures and footage of a dog resembling it very well in the same type areas. I believe
Mhm.
that, but to have a human being turn into a bat or anything such like that, I would say that would have to be.
Oh,
It's possible. It's possible they're out there. It's possible they're out
before you say anything, Simon, I
Quite a few
personally,
people who are gullible called suckers, but
there. Hang on, Simon.
yeah,
Simon,
but
hang on.
I don't think anybody out of what I know of for vampires, without looking at fictional, has ever turned into a bat or into a wolf or into anything else.
Right.
Now, I do know by looking and just stepping aside for just a few seconds at within native culture that there are some which they call themselves wolfen, which shapeshift to a wolf, but they cannot perform a direct change like we see as werewolves, or a person that's a vampire change into a bat or another creature and then take off. But they do have them, but there's very few people behind it. And I think it may be more spiritual than anything else, or even certain elders like medicine men and a few other things like that that can do that, but it's a very small number. I don't think it's like a whole tribe of natives that can do it. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
sorry.
Well, I'm with you right there. Yeah, I'm with you right there, Deb, because now as you say, shapeshifters, yeah. Now me
that's getting into a whole
being in
nother
paranormal stuff
territory.
like that I do believe.
That's going into another territory altogether.
Well, you're talking about skinwalkers. You're talking about skinwalkers changing into other animals. Yeah, now those there I believe in because I mean I don't know much about Native American Indian heritage and their gods and their beliefs, but I do know from a few times that I've talked to a few and things I've read, that is most likely more of a spiritual aspect of a metamorphosis change. I think that's how you pronounce it.
What are you talking about gone the other way, Raves?
Andy, because skinwalkers are normally the evil medicine men in the southwestern and portion of Native American folklore, because of they're supposed to be medicine men that took the evil path and became shapeshifters or skinwalkers. Who, in a way, I would be surprised if they are probably the basis of vampires mythology as well, because of.
I'm not quite. I don't know. Yeah. All right, Simon. Right on. But yeah, the skinwalker stuff, I do definitely do believe in it. Because of an experience of going on a spirit walk that I've done years ago, I do not doubt it at all that they're capable of doing so. Yes. I
I
was
can't
gonna say,
remember
that to
what it
find
was.
my spirit animal.
Years ago. Yeah, you see, Douglas, I went on one similar, but it was a different thing. Trying to find my how to do the healing with this
Mhm.
woman who wasn't Native American, but she was a Celt herself, right? And
okay.
I saw my wolf totem there, and she said, "Describe to me what you see." I said, "I see a wolf, a bear, and a fox together."
Mhm.
And she says, "Are you sure you've not got some Native American in you?" And
Oh,
I said,
wow.
"I don't know," until I went and asked my birth father, my adoptive father. He's got some of my files. He says, "Did you know?"
Wow.
What's that? Your birth mother was a quarter Native American. We don't know who she was, whether she was Sioux or whatever, but she was a quarter Native American.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
Go ahead,
I'm
Deb,
gonna
please.
I'm gonna read this what Big Chuck D just said.
sorry about that. I was trying to walk along.
He said, "Can't remember the two men's names the documentary was about, but they claim a real vampire forced Bram Stoker to write the book in a fictional way. That way, the real vampires could move among us unknown."
Huh.
That I'm not sure about myself.
I mean, I did say earlier, you know, where Bram Stoker got his idea of Dracula, parts of the characters from, which was the
Mhm.
original man who they believe was the first vampire.
Right.
But
Well, some people say Bram Stoker got his idea for the book from actually going around with body snatchers that went to give the bodies to the doctors and
I've
seeing the
heard
blood
some
from the
things like
mouth
that.
is what he gave him the idea for vampires.
Huh. Well, I don't know much of them. That's why I'm tuning in, because we were talking about them, Deb, and I'm like, I don't know much of them. I mean, I know a lot. Well, a good amount of the paranormal and the cryptic aspect of things like this, but yeah, much I don't know. So that's
Yeah.
why I tune in, because
So,
I always learn from you.
well, I kind of just wanted to, do something that was a little bit different, but still is keeping with, part of exploring, because we explore paranormal and cryptid and abandoned and the haunted, and in
Mhm.
some essence, vampires, werewolves, if you want to put the two kind of close together, even though they're two different entities, really fit
Right.
in there
But both
partially
forms of
because
animal spirits.
we talk about these demonic spirits and some of these demonic spirits act like vampires, not
Because the
necessarily
Chinese
always
and the
Right.
Japanese
not
have
necessarily
those.
drinking your blood, but they can drain you of energy. They can suck part of your soul out of you,
Mhm.
or so as some people believe. And as I say,
Yeah.
I think
to each
that's
person, your
true
belief is your belief.
because I
Simon,
know
hang on,
that's
hang
true
on.
because I have that.
We'll let you speak
Right.
in a second, Simon,
Yeah, hang on, Simon. I know, man, you're busting out, dude. I know, I know.
because
That could be.
he's high
I
on
would
Pepsi
definitely.
Max.
Right. Well, I would not put that past anything. Definitely said it's something like that, because I've had myself energy drain in some places, and I never really thought about that actually. That is a good way of trying to putting it, and
All
I
ghosts are
would not put past it.
potentially vampires.
We'll keep the light on. Yeah. Turn my
Okay,
light on. Everybody can see
go
us.
ahead, Simon.
Oh my goodness, the nutcase.
Yeah.
I know you had your thoughts there, so go ahead if you still got them.
Yeah, well, basically, all ghosts, if you think about it, they take the energy from you in a house to express themselves. In a way, they're all vampires in their own way. But some are good spirits, and some are evil spirits, as you know. And some are just in the middle, they're just mischievous. But in a way, they're all vampires because they take a little bit of your energy to manifest
Yep.
and show themselves.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Really.
And what I'm getting at is that years ago, when I was 15 or 16, I was at like a kind of work experience place. I brought an entity by accident home from me from a haunted stable they had in this big place,
Mm-hmm.
and it pinned to my bed and said in my head, "I want your
Ow.
soul," meaning it wanted my bod to invade my body, which meant, in a way, it was a nasty, evil human vampire-like spirit.
That's
I
crazy,
couldn't
Simon.
move, obviously, but it's like it was trying to take me away to the other side and inhabit my body because it didn't want to die.
Yeah.
Huh.
Mm.
That's crazy.
And I mean, since then, I've had this weird obsession with the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've had people say to me, "No, you're crazy. You're being silly. Don't be so stupid."
Oh,
Just
join
think
the boat. Join the boat.
you're
Hello.
learning.
Monkey swing right here.
Yeah.
Whew.
No,
So,
I'm more like a balloon dancer, you know, way, ooby doo, you know. But,
right.
but
Hey, don't
seriously,
do
though, I
that.
mean, people that have these genuine experiences are always made out to be nutters, but they're not. They're real people like you and me who just wish that occasionally some people have more of an open mind.
Yeah. Because I remember, being younger as a kid, being under the age of 10, and both my mother and father trying to instill fear in me of vampires for being in the city of downtown Toronto, Ontario, Canada, in the downtown core, that there was a big, huge mansion that was wrapped around by huge iron fences, and it was a large property. And they always kept saying, "You like." I always said, "Oh, I would love to go see that house." It's like my mom and my dad would say, "No, you don't. The vampires live in there. They'll suck your blood." Okay,
Wow.
and whatever happened that my parents got to know, in the 50s and 60s about this house before, I was born. I have no idea what the background history is and where it supposedly is, or those lands have now been totally destroyed and redeveloped with, new subdivisions and stuff. So it's like, if anything was true, it's like, okay, what remnants have remained?
One
And
thing
if,
I did find out about the house where I accidentally took the spirit back from was
yeah,
it was one of at least six different houses that had been burned down or torn down due to the fact the family that used to own it. You always used to seem to get on the wrong side either of the king or parliament. And the last family did that before it was actually built again in the 1700s, right?
mm,
Were literally burned alive in the cellars, with the house was burned on top of them.
yeah,
And obviously, there's one of the spirits that were the burned down people, obviously, was the father. And that's who I accidentally took home. I mean, unfortunately, being someone who was from the age of 14 onwards susceptible to these things due to a clonk on the head after being knocked over, it's,
mm,
it's not a very nice thing to have.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
occasionally, I
That,
still feel that spirit around me.
right.
Sometimes it's still around me, but it doesn't come to me now as much, and it's not what you call strong enough to affect me now
Right.
because I know how to tell it to piss off, basically. you know, so
Now, the hand, Dev, I got a question for you. Do
okay.
now do vampires like mess around with, say, like cattle, animals type things? They can't get themselves basically their hands on, say, a human.
Well, as history has dictated in literature that we've read, rats, cats, dogs, any animal that they can get a hold of, up to humans that they would suck the blood of to just sustain themselves. So, you know, we know vampire bats from, watching different documentaries that they will find cattle, especially some of the ones in Africa, they'll bite them, let the blood drain out, and they just lick the blood up. as it drains out, and sometimes all it takes is one bat to bite, and 2 or 3 of them are just licking the blood up. So
Okay.
as a vampire, yeah, whatever I think that they could get a hold of, they would use to eat. But does the question,
Maybe vampires might be behind the animal mutilations.
there's a possibility, right? Like, who's to say yes or no to it, really?
Right.
But at the same time, as we've read, like, through books and in movies, they kind of taught us a little bit that, oh, if it's a child, the blood is sweeter and better than a full-grown adult. So, I'm not sure, with that, but kind of there.
It sounds almost like it's almost akin to almost going down to the
Oh,
devil worship, where they used to sacrifice children in the olden days, in the Celtic times in England. They used to go to these special places, sacrifice the children, break a dagger, and then bury them on these special burial ground sites. And there's actually used to be an inn, it's now called the Ancient Ram Inn, where it's literally built on this graveyard. Well, unfortunately, everything that can go wrong with that place does. There is even a succubus in one of the bedrooms.
Right.
yeah. Like, I'm just reading here what Chuck's saying. I'm going to read a few things that he said. He says that there's rumors in his neighborhood spread about an elderly couple being vampires after a local kid saw coffins in their cellar.
Mhm.
He also adds that some claim that the cattle mutilations are not the work of aliens or cults, that in fact that it is vampires. Okay. Yeah, so that's just coming up there.
Knowing my height and weight, I think the vampire would die of a blooming heart attack if he tried to suck my blood. What do you
That's
think,
really
Randy?
What's that?
What do you think if a vampire tried to suck my blood, he'd die of a coroner?
Well, brother, if it did, well, here's hoping you come out of that coma, bro. But I'm just hoping you don't turn and want to get sucked dry by anything like that. I mean,
No,
if
true.
so,
And
but
coming off of some of the movies, right, that we've seen, okay, vampires, we talked about it a little bit, but actually having, intimate relationships and having children. I mean, really, can you be born a vampire? No, not really, because a vampire is by definition kind of undead. So,
right.
undead is, well, a dead brought back from life. So a person who is not dead cannot become a vampire.
No.
So
There
it's
is
like,
a nature condition, a hereditary condition called progeria, where basically their teeth are hooked, right? It's like a blood disorder, very similar to what not progeria is another one I can't remember now. It's like what they said George III had, where he used to make your pee go blue, and also the fact is that your teeth would get hooked. And so you'd look unnatural, almost like a vampire, but you're not. It's a genetic condition brought about by inbreeding again.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand, Ray. Sometimes they're just rumors unless you see it with your own eyes to believe it. But then there's some things that are.
I'd probably kick it in the crotch and run away if I saw one coming at me.
Well, but the thing is, though, without the basic definition of what we think that they should look like, would you actually know that it was one to begin with?
You
True.
wouldn't really know until you suddenly realise that you're growing fangs yourself. You know?
Yeah, but there's people who go get, orthodontists to make them fake fangs or to file all their canines a certain way so that way they look like they've got vampire fangs. So
When I was a
how
kid,
would you know?
there was a girl that did that, had fangs put in, and also had steel caps on the end of the fangs.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just go ahead.
It's amazing, but personally, I thought, how the heck is she going to get a job interview except for at a blood bank? You know,
I don't know. I look ugly enough. I don't need to
Oh.
fix my teeth and make sure they look like they look fangs. No, oh, no.
they're having a fan club.
Because Chuck is
No.
also kind of, coming back that he said, but he did do a paranormal investigation at the cellar, which is locked, and he did get some eerie responses from it.
Could it
And that's
be
claiming about the two elderly couple.
that elder couple? Could it be that the husband could have been, for all he knows, a retired mortician or something? You know, funeral director.
That's just it.
Or
Without doing that type of research, you would know right offhand, right?
something.
With the research, yeah. Absolutely.
Some people buy their own coffins, keep it in the house, and when they die, they keep it, put them in the cupboard, put it in the coffins, and then buried.
Okay, here's a funny question that, like, in this vampire stuff that I'm in amongst, one of the questions was somebody had asked, do vampires have poop? So the answer to this,
So is that where you get blood from?
well, the blood isn't past the digestive tract, but blood rejuvenates them by kind of like magic. So whatever happens is happening on contact with the vampire's mouth or skin without any need for excretions.
Right.
So, I mean, with that would make sense.
Hang on. Son.
But if, I mean, from some things that I've heard, that some vampires, they actually do eat form of bloody meat or something along that lines and digest it in, but does that mean they still, like, they have a digestive system that's actually working, because they're supposed to be dead in a way, but alive at the same time? So what parts is dead, which parts are alive within the body? Is it like a zombie?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I was going to say, that's when my brain hurts at the thought of that. You know,
yeah.
it's one hell of a question.
I just don't understand it all. That is a good one, Deb. Are we a zombie in the bottom half? Are we still living? Is it still conscious? Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a darn good question. I know Rave's got a question. She said it was.
Could some point in the past, could vampirism be a virus? Not akin to that, not far off from rabies, but not rabies. Which means that the brain function is not exactly there, but the whole body's still living. Yeah, akin to zombieism, but not zombieism.
Right.
Oh. Yeah, because I mean, they have some other stupid questions have been called up here. It's like, because they go to Vampire Diaries, and it's like, well, it's a story, it's fictional.
Vampire
so they go on, how did Edward get Bella pregnant, and can vampires get pregnant? Vampire Diaries. Well, according to Vampire Diaries, yes, they can, but that's just, that's the fictional part, and amongst about what people believe, right? So, who's to say which is which? Now, I know Raves wanted to ask a question. I'm going to read what Chuck has said here, because it hasn't popped up on the restream just yet. The two vampire hunters from the documentary said the vampires look like us, and there is a certain marker symbol, kind of like the oracle circle, I guess it is, that Chuck has kind of showed, with the letter V in the center. They said, if you see this symbol and or mark, that would mean that they were a vampire, or which coven they could have been from. Kind of like when you look at Blade in the series, the Blade movies, that he sees, part behind the guy's neck or on his wrist, sees a symbol and says, oh, well, you belong to that cult or coven of vampires.
They call it glyphs, don't they?
Yeah, something like that. I'm waiting for Raves to ask her question here. She had one. I don't see it yet.
Go ahead, dear.
I told her she can ask. I mean, this is what we're trying to do. You know, we ask the main question. I pop up little questions. You know, whatever we know is what we, you know, can put forth in our information. You know, whether we're right or wrong, that's fine.
Right.
Because there's others, you know, that may know more about and, you know, might come around and correct me and saying, oh, well, you guys talked about this, but that's not true, and put it in comments. Well, I don't know if it's true or not because I don't know enough. I don't know somebody that I can sit down and literally ask those questions and get true answers from, because they're going to give me answers. But how do I know that those answers are real? How do I know that they're just not saying it to say that's the type of vampire that they are, the coven species that they are? And I'm using those words because I don't know.
Would it just be something to try and explain something that people can't understand and never will understand in those primitive times, and it's just gone forward into the modern day? You know, it's like the vampires, and you've got people, like I said, without genetic condition. Also, you've got people who opened up a tomb, let's say, to put someone else in, found blood come dripping down their mouths because of decomposition. And as soon as it's a vampire, put a stake through the heart and blood everywhere because of decomposition. It's nothing to do with somebody coming back to life.
Well, they used to do that back to some of their loved ones that had some of the diseases. They actually took a wooden stake and put it through their hearts because they believed that they didn't want the decomposing of the bodies to do anything. But that was the basic belief back then.
Some people in England used to actually deal with vampires by chopping off their heads and putting a stone between their jaws and putting them between their knees.
Well, see, yeah, but see, I was wondering, is that? I mean, I'm sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Randy. I was just saying the E part.
Yeah, no, I was going to answer for Simon. I mean, I see that there too also kind of tells me. I mean, how do we actually know? You know that a stake going through the heart will actually put a vampire out. Of course, folklore says they can't stand light, but then again, there are the daywalkers, is what they call them, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And how do we know that it's really going to actually happen unless we've actually been there and actually seen something like that? I mean, yeah, those are kind of things to take into consideration, for quite a bit of them. But, like I was saying, it's just not quite too sure. If somebody up here definitely knows something about something like this, hey, I'd be all over. I'd be all over it too. Hey, please tell me, correct me, let me know. Because the more I know, the better off I will know the whole situation. So yeah, I agree with you there, Deb.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Raves did ask your question.
Because years ago, I had a friend of mine who used
Simon, before you get started, hang on. Raves has her question. Hold up.
So she asked her question, and I kind of did answer it earlier, but maybe not fully. She asked, what actually makes it a vampire? Is it because people eat the afterbirth from a baby raw meat or barely cooked meat? These are just some things that some people think that make a type of vampire. Okay, it's not necessarily that they are the vampire that we read in books where they need to bite you in the neck and suck your blood type idea. Because I'm gonna go back to this just to say that the Italian-born adventurer whose fate brought to Delphi in Greece. And in his story, in a nutshell, that he had a series of blessings and curses that transformed this young man into what they consider to be the first vampire. Okay, so Ambrogio, Ambrogio, is the man's name. Okay, so look him up as being the first vampire, and you can read the story. Like, there is history on this person. That's out there. Like, I mean, I already, like, just kind of clicking where his name is, where I have that question, who's the first vampire? I already got like 4 different websites to go to. Now I don't know which one is real, which one is not, but you can read upon it because there is a big history story on this person.
Funny enough, there was actually a Roman emperor called Ambrosius who was declared almost like a satanic bloodsucker because he was not a very nice man at all.
Yeah,
Which wondering where that also could have come from. But
but
you see
to
these
kind of
stuff
get
like
on
this.
what Ray said, I mean,
Sorry.
would you not agree, Simon and Randy, that a little bit more modern vampire could be one who just drinks blood, who eats raw, bloody animal muscles, or maybe whatever from the afterbirth of a baby being the umbilical cord or anything else. Do you feel that could kind of be a little bit similar to a vampire in a way?
Actually, for the modern day one, yeah, I would. Yeah, I would think about that down that aspect of a line. Yeah, I'd probably say the modern day ones would probably do that. Yeah. How about you, Simon?
Well, while I was saying the subject, I mean, I said earlier about I was going to say about the people that suck the energy of being a vampire as well. Years ago, I used to have a friend of mine who was, one of those people that just seemed to suck the energy from you. He wasn't a very good friend. I went round there one day with a present for his birthday, which was a rock crystal pyramid because he loved Egypt.
Okay.
Everything to do with Egypt he loved. He picked it up in his pocket and suddenly it went dark and split in two. Could he have been a human vampire?
I'm following.
Because you see, a white crystal pyramid like that just only channels white energy, pure energy.
Right.
If somebody's not a very good person and likes to suck the people's energy from them to almost like to sustain themselves, be narcissistic, you could easily split the crystal in half and it goes dark.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Because,
I think it starts to lead to some other things, with Egyptian folklores that are a little different than vampires, maybe. But then there could be some similarities too. I don't really know.
Same.
I mean, like the Nubis hounds used to be a bit that way, apparently.
See, I would, if it's going to get into Egyptian stuff and that, I would try to ask one friend of mine that's here, but I don't know if she will, come up and actually talk about it because she's into a lot of it, and she had people that used to sell a lot of Egyptian artifacts in one of our, end of summer type fairs that we had. But they would get some of the things from Egypt itself, whether they were legitimate artifacts or not, or just copies. I don't know, but she's really gone in researching on a lot of Egyptian stuff. So that would, I would ask her and see if she, be willing to talk about it or not.
I think in the southeast of England, there's actually a graveyard where someone actually built themselves a pyramid to sit in and to live.
Mm-hmm.
Not say not live, to go to the afterlife in. And actually had the Egyptian curse put in it inside the tomb.
Yeah.
So that if anybody tried to what you call give them steal their body or whatever's in the tomb, they would get this evil whatever spirit come forward, which is the same as what the people used to say about the Egyptian mummies as well.
A lot of curses.
What vampires and thing just be due to the fact of some almost like people being so scared of curses and other things than the supernatural.
Yeah.
That's it. More.
Chuck and Raves were, kind of saying a little bit there in chat. But does that mean that, okay, you cut yourself, right? Well, even if it's a little cut on the finger or wherever, that we go ahead and we suck the blood to kind of stop it from bleeding, even though there's some of us are just bleeders and it doesn't matter how much you suck, it'll never stop. Does that make us a type of vampire because we do it? Or do you think that you would have to constantly cut yourself and keep sucking blood to say that brings you more to a vampire state? Well, not like, a full vampire, but a small class of it.
Yeah. Randy, would you say it's to stop the bleeding the first time round that we put our finger to our lips to try and stop the bleeding? You know, trying to stop the bleeding with the saliva, you know?
Hmm.
Right.
So I'm not sure that makes him be a vampire, but mind you, I've known plenty of suckers in the
I don't know.
politician
We
in the
don't have into that one,
world,
to be honest.
I have to admit, throughout the world, there's plenty of politicians
I
who
know.
suckers,
Well, there are different type of bloodsuckers, but
Yeah. There are. I like the
usually,
ones that just
usually,
hit me on there and just say, "Huh, I could have had it."
yeah. Well, usually they got their hand in my back pocket, pulling the money out of my wallet. They suck it that way. Um,
Oh, Deep, that's so true. Oh,
uh,
so
but
many ways. So
I
many ways.
guess I guess that, if somebody, like I said, if they cut their hand, they suck the blood, they get the taste of it, and they continue because they like the kind of the taste, that maybe they could become a form of vampire, because then maybe they would crave it more, and if their craving gets bigger and bigger enough that because they're constantly doing that, I guess it could exaggerate to a larger form, saying, well, they need to get some blood from a blood bank and suck on the bank, or having somebody willingly, and there is out there truthfully that people allow other people to kind of cut them or bite them and suck their blood.
There's even some people actually let people come over and kill them and eat them because it's part of their fetish, which is to do with vampires in a way, sucking the blood, drinking the blood.
It rejuvenates them, Rave.
Why would you say devilish?
Well, she's asking, why do vampires suck blood? Is it a need, a fantasy, or what? Well, it is their need. Like, this is the way that keeps them alive because it rejuvenates them.
In the film Blade, it was due to some factor being missing in the blood.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like a form of anemia.
Yep.
That's actually the reason why the vampires drank the blood. Because if they didn't, they would die.
Well, it's not that they would die right away. They would, it kind of like, I used the terms earlier, decompose and go into a mummified state, and then they go to sleep. That's the basic knowledge of the vampires as a whole, saying that if they don't have blood, this is what they do. So the blood is their life form in a way, is like us, breathing, drinking, and eating. They just need it in one substance, and that's it.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
It's more like in the blue universe, it being like sickle cell anemia. You know what I mean?
Iron deficiency as well.
Yes.
Okay. Well, iron deficiency.
It kind of fits all that.
Oh, well, see, I did not know. So, I mean, I'm glad I came up here because half of this here I didn't even know. I mean, just the folklore stories I've ever told about vampires. And here's the other thing too, Dev, I never understood that. Okay, if vampires cannot go out during the day, then how is that the night of the moon has a tendency to change those two who are a werewolf, but werewolves are allowed to stay out, which I kind of somewhat understand, but then they have a certain time in order to return to the human state.
Yeah.
I think it's a case that if they're in the
wouldn't there be like traits of something, in the human body that show like it's been broken and extended and American Werewolf style type deal, changing? I mean, wouldn't there be some kind of?
I'm a werewolf because I'm a hairy bugger.
No, Simon, you're not a werewolf. You're a Sasquatch.
There you go.
They used to be one of those. Until the 16th century, there was actually a cryptid called the Green Man, which was supposed to be Britain's version of Sasquatch.
Okay.
We'll get into Sasquatch and Bigfoot another time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We want to stay more on the vampire part. We do know there's some things that cross over into that world or realm, but we're trying to stick more closer to the vampires. Yeah. I mean, werewolves kind of fit a little bit because they do the same thing, but in a different way.
Yeah, hang on,
No
Simon.
vampire says, "Thanks you very much for your neck. Let me have a nibble."
Okay, now here's a question that pertains to vampires, Dev. Now,
Okay.
wouldn't a vampire want to, as they say, like in the movies, stuff like that, that a true vampire never casts a shadow in a mirror? Now, wouldn't that be my thinking as dead giveaway? Hello, oops. Yeah, somebody doesn't have a reflection in the mirror. Yeah, dude, I'm stepping back from you, pal. But
Well,
wouldn't they
they
want
say
to
that.
have a reflection to not give themselves away?
They would, but also at the same time, they also stay away from mirrors, and based on movies and literature and the fictional novels, they say that a lot of the vampires, they don't keep mirrors in the home that they stay in, just so that
True.
way you cannot see them.
Yeah. Sounds a bit dead, like The Life and Times of Dorian Gray, the book.
Mm-hmm.
He alone must
You're
be a
right.
vampire, because the fact is he had a painting that showed him as a reflection of him growing old and really, really. And apparently, if you showed him his picture like a mirror,
Uh-huh.
he would perish. Dorian
Yeah,
Gray would perish.
Yeah, but also at the same time, also throughout the movie, he also drank blood.
Yeah.
He went on the little spree where he would kill people and drink their blood.
Darn.
So did you get your Bloody Mary there, Raves?
I just had a thought. Vegetarian vampire drinks tomato juice.
Bloody Mary. Oh. Suit up.
Right? A vampire drinking on monkey blood doesn't mean that the vampire will be swinging around like a monkey.
Well, let's hope.
No, she got
Yeah.
her bloody tea, so her tea is red. Well, hey, I guess that means if you eat a gorilla, do you become strong like the gorilla? You drink their blood and that. If you drink the blood of a skunk, does that mean now that you take on the characteristics that you stink all the time?
No, I think
They stunk and fart and smell like it stunk. No, thank
oh
you.
my God. There's some people that don't need to be eating skunks for their farts to smell bad, I tell you.
Mhm.
You know?
Oh, okay. I got it. Oh, Reeves is coming up. I guess she wants to talk and ask questions. Hey, Reeves.
No, I'm just tired of typing.
Hey, Rams!
Oh, okay, that's no problem. Whichever.
My eyes were hurting. I couldn't even see the screen after that.
Yeah, just leave Chuck down there in the basement by himself, right? Sorry, Chuck, that you're there by yourself.
We're talking
Thanks,
about
Tom.
vampires, right? Ronnie Howard had a book called Kroll the Conqueror, right? And in
Yeah.
it, there was a demon vampire queen called Akibasha. Which is very nice. It sounds very much like Anne Rice's book, which was about that Egyptian queen that came to life as a vampire. I can't remember the bloody name of the woman now. But,
Well, yeah. Okay, just kind of cutting back with what Chuck's saying goes. If the vampire did force Bram Stoker to write a fictional story, then maybe part of what we know about vampires might not be true.
That is very true.
Right?
You can't believe everything you read, right?
It could be partial cover-up. That they made the story, they made the movies that they did from that point, from Bram Stoker going forward. Maybe part of what they're saying is a lie, just to cover up, to protect themselves.
I'm waiting for Ray
You won't know, will you?
Really resin pair of vampire fangs. Just because that'd be quite cool for Raves to do some vampire fangs with epoxy resin.
That's an entirely different show for a different channel.
Leave me out of it.
Simon, stick with the subject, Simon. Vampire, Simon. Vampire.
Well, he is, but
Come on, a tangent, I can't help it.
Maybe Raves can make us all, a steak that we can stab a vampire with out of resin.
Yeah.
Now,
Would it work?
Doesn't the steak have to be a certain wood, though? I mean, let's get back to being serious. It
Well,
has to be a
no, no.
certain
No.
type of wood,
It
doesn't
can
it?
be any wood. It can be any wood,
Yes.
as long as it's sharp and pointy.
Well, I thought it had to be a certain from a certain tree.
Oh, you're talking about the rowan tree?
okay. There's a question I do want to ask.
I
Yes,
don't know,
pertains
but I'm
to
sure I
the
heard
steak
somewhere
that we
it had to
eat.
be a certain type of wood. Huh? Maybe it was a film.
I don't know. Well, it could be.
Edward.
That just ruins it.
I just
Sorry.
kind of trying to get the bit of that in here with this.
I'm Googling it now.
Well, you could Google it and see what it says, but I mean, there's other things that are there. Like, I mean, from the movies and from books that I've read, they've always said that it was a wooden stake that had to be blessed
Which
Okay.
gotta be good.
by a priest,
So-
with holy water.
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
at the same time, I've also been told that you can kill them easier if it was silver. Okay, kind of with
Uh,
werewolf.
yes. It says
silver
here
bullet.
the hawthorn wood is the most popular choice of steak for a vampire.
Does it say because it was from a certain area in the world, or
It says here each type of wood is steeped in folklore that gives it power. In Asia, the willow wood is believed to have the power over the dead.
Okay. So they're kind of basically stating it based on where you are in the world.
That's what I mean. It's folklore, though. I don't know. Come across a vampire and try it with a cedar. See what happens. If it don't work, you need a different one. Run.
I
Yeah,
know. I
It would
know.
be, it would be a good idea.
If it doesn't work, if it doesn't work for a vampire, it's cedar coming.
Right.
So I can help
Now-
them
now-
either.
That's
Now,
true,
Bev,
Chuck.
you
I've
made a
heard that
comment-
too. Is to take their head off.
Well, yes, they do also state, in movies and a few books, like that. If you look at the movies,
Okay.
Some books
for
you can
Blade,
sort
and you look at a few other
of,
vampires movies, they say, yeah, decapitating them is the best way, so that way they can't
Yeah.
resurrect themselves again.
There's
That
actually a
I've heard.
computer game at the moment with vampires in it called Skyrim.
Yes.
They use silver swords in that.
Yes, they're saying anything that's silver to use to, go through the heart or to take off the head or through the brain, basically, those 3 points.
To kill a werewolf, it's silver bullets.
They say to use bullets, but you could use anything silver to pierce through the heart.
All right, got that one, Simon? Anything silver?
Oh, I can't see. Hey, hang on. I'm looking at something because I was watching something quite a while ago and I've got to find it.
Well, you go ahead and find it. We'll keep
Okay,
talking.
good.
No, because it was about vampires. It's important.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
you let us know when you find it.
Now,
So
Bev,
yeah,
you
like
were
I mean,
saying some-
there is some weapons that cross
Yeah.
over between vampires and werewolves. So some work, some don't. Some folklore stories, this and that we hear that this works better than this. So I guess it all comes down to how you want to hunt one, right? And how you want to kill it. Do you just want to maim it, or do you want to legitimately kill it so it's completely dead? I think the stake to the heart is the first blow, and decapitating it would finish it completely off, and then putting it out in the sunlight during the day and burn the crap out of it. That would be neat.
I just had the subject. All these films where they show people killing the vampires and everything else, it makes people think, oh, they don't exist. Well, they're the bollocks, right?
Yeah.
Well, can that be a way from somebody in an organization trying to protect the vampires?
There's a possibility too.
Yeah.
Right. And who's to say that there's a possibility that these people could walk among us and we just don't know it.
Who's a
Yeah.
Wolfman OG?
I'm
The
sure it
day,
was
vampire that walks that goes out during the day, that is known as a day walker, correct?
Yes, there is.
That's
Just wanna
a
make sure-
hybrid between
That's me when I
human
get up in the morning.
and vampire.
You're a daywalker? No, I thought you were a zombie.
Well, I know, sometimes he walks around like one.
The
Love you too,
daywalkers
Dave.
are kind of a hybrid vampire in a way because, you know, they have protection against the sun. They can go out, which is part of what the werewolves are supposed to be able to do when they're in a werewolf form. That way, they can protect themselves through different points that allows them to go out in the sun. Hey, I guess we all should just grow a bunch of fur in our bodies and we can protect our UV light from the sun. No, but yeah, the Daywalker vampires, that was part of the ability, and that was brought from what I know. And if anybody else knows, hey, you know, by any means, let us know that.
Bye, Chuck.
Yes.
All right, Chuck, thanks for stopping by, being part
See
of
you
this.
later,
and
Chuck. Take care of
see you
yourself.
around somewhere.
Nice to meet you, sir.
You know this thing about people saying about vampires being scared of the sun, it burns them and kills them.
Yeah.
You also a little bit maybe to do with albinoism. People being albino as well can be mistaken for a vampire because they cannot go in the sun. They got to stay covered up indoors, and also their eyes hurt in the sun.
Yes,
because
full-fledged
they're
albinos. Yes, I know that. I know
Yeah,
one
I've
kid
heard-
when I was younger in school that he was considered albino, but I don't know what full stage, but he could go out and come to school, but he wore sunglasses a lot of the time that covered a lot of his eyes.
I've heard
I
that.
used
Wow.
to have somebody at my school that actually was a full-blood albino, total albino.
Hmm.
He was a white guy anyway, but he had to wear all sorts of creams all over him
Jeez.
and wear special violet sunglasses.
Yeah.
You know,
Found it.
Okay, what did you
Cool.
find, Rave?
It wasn't on Netflix. That's why I couldn't find it. So I had to go out of there. It's called Grimm. And that's all about vampires, werewolves, and all that. And they all live in this. Where do they live? They live somewhere in America anyway. But it's a really good show. And it does teach. I mean, if you want to learn about vampires, werewolves, and all these weird
Is that
mythological
the one with
things,
the brother and sister?
No, that's two brothers, isn't it, Grim? I've
No,
seen that
well,
program.
well, there's
no, Grimm's
Grimm.
on his own. He's a police officer.
Oh,
and
okay.
he's
I haven't seen that one
And
yet.
he's married to a normal, what we call normal. But his
Right.
best friend is some wolf something. But it's really, really good because it does get you into all kinds of different characters. I mean, we're talking about vampires, but
Hmm.
they go into everything. And there's a whole book. They've got this book that's in a caravan, and it's so cool. But it teaches you how to kill them, how to save them, blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah.
there's
It's
the
cool.
Brothers
Same with
Grimm,
Buffy
which
the
is
Vampire
kind of
Slayer as well. Yeah, Buffy the Vampire Slayer had demons, werewolves,
Oh, not that.
witches, vampires.
No, but
well,
the Grimm
Right.
actually
All right, hang
explains
on,
where they
hang on.
come from. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not a normal program.
What?
It's really frigging good.
I know because there's the Brothers Grimm.
I never watched it myself, but
Hang on,
There's
I
Simon.
might actually go. I might actually go and watch
Simon,
it.
hang on. Simon,
Oh.
hold up.
Hearing ding dongs.
Go ahead.
What's going on?
That's mine. Sorry, hon. My daughter was
Okay.
messaging me earlier.
Because there's the Brothers Grimm. There's Grimm. Then there's the Grimm that Raves is talking about. Then there's the movie known as Hansel and Gretel, which is the brother and sister team that go after witches and a few other creatures and amongst that. And then there's we've seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We've seen the runoff one that was from that as well. We've seen other ones. There was True Blood. There's a few of them out there that were TV shows that kind of told us different little things. Some get into a little bit more details because they read, the information of books of folklore and try to bring the story forward. At the same time, they also twist it to give the audience a little bit more attention, wanting to keep them in and drag you in like a sucker for the next episode in a way.
Oh, this one did.
Oh,
I was binge watching it.
But yeah, so
You know,
like when you said Grimm, I was thinking of another one.
Yeah,
Isn't
this
there
one
one
is
that's called
GRIMM. So Grimm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's on
I
Sky Max. If you've got
Well,
Sky.
Also to do with the double. Oh, go. Who's off? Somebody's after me. I'll be back another time, okay?
all right.
All right,
Mm-hmm.
later, son.
Take care, my friends.
Take care.
Take care. I'm trying to find a way out to leave on this thing.
Whew. Okay, now. We're here, Jeff.
So if you guys been following in, if you're watching this on replay, yes, we're talking about the basic question is, are vampires real? And we've kind of, went across what, I kind of feel, and what everybody else maybe kind of felt, that folklore, stories, myths, legends, fictional, etc., that kind of touch a little bit of everything. Do they exist? Maybe not as what we know from movies and that, but they do kind of exist today, just not in the full aspect where they have all these powers and everything else, because that's the question. It's like, what powers do they have?
Yeah.
We can look at movies and see what powers they say they supposedly have, and books, like Anne Rice, she had a big vampire series that wasn't just, some of the ones that we know. Interview with a Vampire was, another idea that gave us, a little bit more insight. We can look at the old original Dracula movies and say, oh, I want to suck your blood, and put the cape, and he has a white face, and he has got black hair, and
Great accent there, Dev.
Dev. Medallion and everything. And we know the first man who did it, he was great at doing it. I love those old, movies like that. But there are vampires today that some of these people, they do drink blood, whether if it's animal or human, I don't know. It could be both. Could be one or the other.
They start off with animal, don't they?
Some people think that if you're eating raw or, rare meat, that you could be a vampire. But I think
I might be then. Uh-oh.
See, my son, I know this is not vampirish, but he will eat pretty much raw meat. Like when he has a steak, he literally throws it on the pan, turns it over, takes it back off the plate and eats it.
Searing the outside to keep the juices in. Yes. Yeah.
And when he cuts it, I have to leave the room because I can't stand the look of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how he eats. So does that make him a vampire because he likes the taste of blood? But
not necessarily, but in in a certain way that some people may say yes.
Yeah, some people will say he is because he likes the taste of blood. But
and then I turn around, and it's like, okay, well, if I cut my finger, the first thing I'm going to do is put it into my mouth and suck on it.
I cut my finger and suck the blood off.
And I've done it for my daughter, even.
Yeah.
So does that make me a vampire?
Yes, it does. I'm going to come with you at the stake.
It's okay.
I want to get Cedar or Willow.
I have an excuse.
The devil.
I have an excuse. I'm a devil, so I do all sorts of things.
I don't think the Willow.
Well, it is in your name, Deborah. It is in your name, Deb.
That's another episode for another time. To us devils.
Do you believe in the devil?
To us devils really exist. There's so many other runoff topics from this that we could go to, right?
I mean, you could do a whole series on this.
We could go all over the place because there's so many, little covens that are throughout, the world. Never mind, like just in the States. In the States, like there's over thousands of different little empire type covens or groups that are there that say that, hey, no, we are vampires, and there's no say, to it. Like you can't say anything different. But as I said, it's kind of like a little bit with the religion, because religion looked at them. If you did certain things a certain way, you were not human. You were some type of demon or some type of creature, and they deemed that they need to kill you because you didn't fit what they considered to be human. or to be, I hate using the word to be normal.
Right.
Oh, what is normal?
Even if you had dementia or you had ADD, they thought there was something wrong with you. You needed to be killed. They used to
Yeah.
drill holes in people's heads to drain the blood out, thinking that there's too much blood on the brain.
They don't do
because
that
of
no
the
more.
condition.
So that's
Oh, I
why
know.
they used to put what they classed as nutty people, even though they had ADHD and whatnot,
Yep.
put them in mental asylums and give them electric shock treatment. It was barbaric.
Hey, there's a lot of abandoned asylums in the States that are about that, and I know there is in UK as well.
I know. I found 2 so far over here, but I have found a ton load over there.
Well, yeah, there's a
Right.
lot, and some of them were treating tuberculosis as well,
Yeah.
right? And other mental conditions that they had no idea what it was. They didn't know how to even start to treat it.
Oh,
Yeah.
excuse me.
And
I've got to let my puppy out. She needs
Go
a
ahead,
wee.
and they used medieval torture devices to try to alleviate whatever it is in that person's head or body, which was cruel. Like tuberculosis, I mean, it worked for a little bit, but it certainly didn't cure them all. They thought that sitting out in a chair in the middle of the cold of winter took care of it for them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, wait, I can't remember the name of that hospital, but I think I know which one you're talking about.
I don't know if it's the Waverly or the other one.
I think it sounds like the Waverly Hospital, because
A lot of YouTubers have been there. A lot of YouTubers have been to that one for tuberculosis, where they put them outside on the balconies, and the cold seemed to kind of help with whatever they were going through, but it didn't cure them.
Right. No, no. I found that out. Well, hey, I gotta put Instagram on it.
Hold out there. Oh, Chris, a good girl.
So,
Bless you.
if you walk down a dark alleyway and somebody's there following behind you and they got red glowing eyes, are they a vampire?
No, it's
Don't
just
want to
Deb.
know. Don't want to find out. Run like hell.
It's just Deb coming out for the night. It's all good. Oh,
What?
Trixie, what did you do?
You said it was just you coming out from the pub after a few drinks with Vicky?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Vicky. I just had to say that for the fun of it.
Probably. Hang on, she's got the biscuit. I'll be back.
But that's something that they say. Oh, they have a certain color eyes in the dark that glow. There's yellow even used. That some of them, they have snake eyes and this and that. Like, there's a little of everything. Like, I've seen it in movies. I've seen it in different literature and pictures that have been drawn here and there.
Right.
I'm fascinated. I want to know more. But at the same time, I can turn around and say, do I really want to know more? Because if I go past that forbidden door, is it going to be too much?
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I going to be drawn in a weird way that I don't want to be? So how do you keep a safety net amongst yourself? If there's a whole bunch because they say that, is it Florida or New Orleans? I can't remember. I do know that Omar Gosh and Mo Sargi have been there. I think maybe Exploring with Angela and a few others. I don't know if Exploring with Josh has been in that one, but they do say there's a school down there that has vampires in it, a group of people that they reside and do whatever rituals and everything inside an abandoned school that's there.
Wow. Yeah, because I believe the Waverly hospital there. I think they had. Now I might be mistaken. It might be another place, but from what I hear, that one of the nurses hung herself up on the very top floor of the nurse's office because she couldn't stand to sit and watch these children and people go through so much suffering, and she just couldn't handle it no more. Now, am I in the right place?
Yeah, I believe that's the same one.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's I found that out from Oh My Gosh TV. That's where I found that out from.
Oh, okay, she's
about-
back. So
Oh,
Oh.
that hurt.
Well, she's not on my screen yet. Oh, there she is.
Wow.
Now, you know, yeah, David, Reyes was making a comment about her son. Now, as far as I'm concerned, since I was a kid, I mean, my mom, yeah, we'd have steak and she'd have it sit in the pan, and rinse it all off, rinse all the blood off it, and then put it in Worcestershire sauce. I had a habit of going by and peeling off the piece, eating it. I still do it once in a while with either hamburger meat and stuff like that. While I'm making the patty, stuff like that, I'll have a little bit. So I don't know if that qualifies me as a vampire or not, but she might have to step out of the room when I cook when I do that. But hey, I don't know. I don't think
The
I would
only-
call it consumer.
well, it's not really that it's raw because it's smoked, but the closest thing that comes to it is, being part European, from the German Polish, what we call shinga, which is a smoked form of belly bacon.
Right.
What?
Okay.
So, I mean, that's the closest that I come to as eating something that, raw meat. Next to maybe, say
Shush.
tuna or salmon, but that's it.
Right.
Because
Right.
I can eat those easily raw enough that it doesn't bother me. But
Yeah, but
other
people
fish,
eat raw
no, I have to
fish.
have it cooked. Yes,
You call it
I do
sushi.
too. And I don't eat sushi.
Oh, okay. I thought
No,
like
cook
raw
the
fish
food,
was-
please.
I'm sorry, I did not know. I
Well,
don't eat it myself.
you know what? We'll make you a special sushi, the one that comes from the real fish known as the puffer.
No,
Yay!
that's dangerous.
Yes, but you have to be trained on how to slice it, otherwise,
I may be old, but I know that much.
if you nick it the wrong way, you'll cause the poison to come out from its insides to the rest of the flesh. Then you're in trouble.
Oh,
There's about, if I'm not mistaken, 120 people, I think, a year die from that
from cutting it the wrong way.
because it was cut the wrong way and then
Wow.
they ate it.
Wow.
So,
I don't know if I want to take that kind of a gamble. I'm not much of a gambling man.
well, hey, that's
Yeah,
the
I have bad luck at
same-
that.
That's one heck of a risk of eating it, isn't it?
Okay, we'll turn it around, bring it back again. If you had to eat raw meat in order to survive, would you do it?
Yes.
No,
So
no.
Randy said he would
I'll
to
find some
survive.
berries somewhere.
Rave said that she would not and rather die. I didn't say about finding berries. I said that you had
Yeah,
to eat the raw meat in order to survive.
I couldn't even kill
You
an
have no
animal
choice.
to survive. I couldn't. No, I can't even kill an animal to survive.
So, because that's part of with the vampires that they would kill, eat, suck the blood from rats, from other animals, some people's little dogs and whatever else.
Cover your ears, Trixie.
But that is, what has been written, what we
We
know
won't
because
invite
of
Dev
what we've
round. He's
written.
going to eat you. I know.
No, only if
Right.
you got a couple of Worcester sauce there on the side.
Oh, yeah, that throw a little taste on that, baby. Yeah. Oh, that would be perfect.
But
I'm sure there are people that
I-
do that, but
that could be brought in, saying, okay,
come on.
do
Hello. Hello.
Asian people could be
Oh,
considered
thank
that
you.
because they like to eat all animals.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah.
That's
Does that bring it to a form of cannibalism? Because is cannibalism a form of vampire?
right.
Right. So, it opens the mind a little bit more. So, if you know anything and you want to talk about those people and you're watching this replay, hey, leave some comments down below the video. Let me know. If you know more information, you like to talk, hey, I'd like to bring this back up again and do it.
Trixie.
Heck yeah.
Because
I'd-
it is a wide open
I'd-
thing and there's a bunch of different people
Yeah.
that have information, have their beliefs. And,
Right.
I accept it.
It's true.
I, I kind of believe that there is. To what extent, I don't know.
Right.
I only know what I've read, what I've been told, but I cannot believe all the movies and some of the documentaries I see because I don't
No.
think that they're fully true. Because how do you know that the people they're talking to are telling them the truth?
Yeah.
That's true.
And even if I did talk to
They
somebody
could just
myself,
be doing it.
how do I know they're telling me the truth? How do I know they're just not just telling me something just to make me believe?
Yeah.
Because I'll say this, whether not everybody's going to agree, that talking about somebody being a vampire, a true vampire, is like trying to tell me to have faith in God, that you need to believe. Now I know everybody's belief is different, but I'm just saying openly that. Okay?
Yeah.
It doesn't, because everybody's belief is different on different things. But in a way,
Right.
essence,
Exactly.
I'm saying that, how do you know what is 100% true and what's not? How do you prove it?
Yeah.
True.
That's all.
Very true.
That is hard. That is hard to prove 100%.
Yeah.
So,
But that's why it's
You
called a
gotta find-
belief.
Yeah.
oh, I don't think anybody else has come in and out. Other people I know are off doing other things. Other people are going live. They've been live, even from when I started. I know that, and some
Are
people
they?
I would have gone to, but I made this plan. I was going to do this yesterday, but then I don't know. I changed my mind and the time frame and brought it to this. So I will say thank you for everybody who's been in chat. Thank you to everybody who's come up here on panel to talk about Are Vampires Real? And we most definitely will come back to this again at some point down the road.
Sounds awesome.
So, Randy, Dave,
Because I love nightmares before I go to bed. Okay.
well, thank you for coming on up.
I'm going to be sleeping like that tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Get off!
Well, just get yourself, a
You're
necklace
welcome,
of
Dev.
garlic and keep it around
It's
your
always
neck,
fun with
and
you.
you'll be all right.
True, Deb.
You'll
Well, thank you
even
for
keep
having me.
Randy away.
Yeah.
With that said, folks, thank you very much. You take care, and Are
Good night.
Vampires Real? Take care, all.